Thank you. It's a pleasure being here with you to talk about having a conversation about remittances, trends in remittances, remittances as a service as part of these trends, and the rise of super apps as part of the future of the industry. So I think we're going to have a good conversation. So hopefully you can get out of this talk with a better understanding of what we believe are the trends for remittances and remittances as a service. So we're going to talk about migration. Migration and remittances are very important. This is the obvious. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, so try to get a sense of the audience here. So raise your hand if you work in a country different from the country that you were born. Raise your hand if you consider yourself an immigrant or an expat for those purposes. Raise your hand if you have sent money internationally to support a family service, a family member, a friend, or to pay for services in another country. So a lot of people. Good to see. Raise your hand if you work for a company that offers remittances or international cross-border payments. And if you don't, if your company is thinking about offering remittances or cross-border payments. So I think we have a little bit of everything. So my particular case, as many of you, I live in the US, but I was born in Mexico. I was raised in Mexico, so I'm an immigrant into the US, or an expat, if you want to say. And I've been living in the US for the last 17 years. And I consider myself as part of the more than 280 million people around the world that are considered immigrants and that are, for one reason, living in another country than the country that they were born. So a lot of them, most of them, because of work opportunities, either for a career purposes or just something as simple as getting the opportunity to have a revenue and an income to support their families. So migrants send money, send remittances to cover for their families' essential expenses and to be able to support their loved ones. But remittances can also get more sophisticated. People may have a foreign bank account in another country because you now have people that have multiple nationalities, multiple residences. And there are cases where remittances are not necessarily to support family, but also for the case of living a multinational, multicultural life. So the world, as we know, is becoming more interconnected. As we see, you can see this conference, how many people, how many languages. When you're walking down the aisle, you always hear people talking so many different languages. So the world is getting very interconnected. I mean, in my particular case, in my daughter, while going to high school, in the US, her closest personal friends were coming from families from India, from South Korea, from China, from Iran, from Mexico, and yes, from the US. But it's an amazingly mix of how the world is becoming more interconnected, and you just not have the migration, but you also have the interconnectivity between the different countries. It's more of a social phenomenon that is taking place, and remittances have become a vital economic engine, not just for the countries that receive the funds, but also for the countries that immigrants work and the value that immigrants provide in the countries where they work, in terms of taxes, in terms of consumption taxes, in terms of property values. So much impact that migrants bring to the world. So all of these trends, at the end of the day, create a great opportunity for companies that are doing cross-border payments, because new challenges come into the way. on how you can provide these type of services in a more efficient way. So these are the trends that the causes that lead what we believe are the trends in the industry, and probably we'll start with some of the obvious ones and try to go into more detail into other ones that may not sound to be very obvious. But obviously, probably the most obvious one is digitalization. Digitalization has become the obvious trend in remittances. Yes, you do have challenges for digitalization, especially in countries where there is not so clear status of the migrant people and their capability of opening bank accounts, because you do need somehow some type of bancarization in order to better use digital services in a more efficient way. But even in countries where that is a struggle, you also have digital tools that allow to do the cash in to a digital product, but then make the transaction digital. So digitalization is a trend. Obviously, COVID increased the rates of growth of companies doing digital remittances, and it continues to be a huge trend. Again, cash in some corridors will continue to be important, but we need to acknowledge that digitalization is here to stay in the industry and will continue to prosper. There's a lot of discussion also about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and how cryptocurrencies are going to make remittances more efficient. In our opinion, you need to distinguish two. When you talk about cryptocurrencies and remittances, you need to distinguish two points. One is from a company perspective, companies in the industry that may use cryptocurrencies to make the settlement in foreign currencies more efficient. And two, the second topic is how individuals, or if individuals are going to be using cryptocurrencies for remittances purposes. We do believe there are very good use cases, and there are many examples in the industry where companies use cryptocurrencies to facilitate settlement. There are multiple companies that specialize on those services and allow you, again, to be more efficient. You don't need to hold large balances of foreign currencies in countries that you may not have volumes. So I think all of that contributes to a more efficient industry. But from a consumer perspective, it's harder to think that cryptocurrencies in the short term will grow at an aggressive rate, because you still have some challenges that you need to take into consideration, like on-off ramp costs, and in some countries, like in the US, the tax implications of selling cryptocurrencies. So just a food for thought on cryptocurrencies. AI, I mean, who's not thinking or talking about AI even on this event? I don't see companies successful in this industry if you don't consider AI, especially on the digital world. Of course, AI will allow you to make your onboarding process of your digital customers more efficient with less friction and mitigate your fraud cost and your fraud losses. But not only that, AI will allow you to improve your customer experience, to improve your customer journey by doing predictive analysis, by doing retention strategies. So at the end of the day, AI will allow companies not only to reduce the cost of onboarding a customer, but also through the retention and through very innovative ways, increasing the lifetime value of those customers, which again, I think that's essential if digital remittances are to continue reducing the cost of transactions. The compliance head of my company will not allow me to be here with you if I don't talk about regulatory changes and regulatory implications and compliance. So, but this is the truth. Compliance, regulatory challenges from a security perspective, from a money laundering perspective, from a consumer protection perspective, are here to stay. And as companies become more global, you need to be more aware of these compliance and regulatory challenges and changes all over the world in order to continue with the efficiency of the industry. And then through all of these complexities and through all of these items, we go into the remittance as a service as part of a trend. For companies that want to enter the industry or companies that do not have the scale, in order to do what I've been talking about in an efficient way, you need to have deep pockets and a lot of investment and a lot of commitment in order to be able to do this in a very successful way. But remittance as a service, in our opinion, is filling this gap as it is allowing companies to partner and especially to accelerate their time to market and their efficiency in offering a state-of-the-art product at a low cost, which again would be essential if you want to compete in the future in this space. So partnerships and collaborations, of which remittances as a service are key, will be a big component of the future of our industry. So there are two ways of engaging in remittances as a services, or two main avenues. One is taking advantage of your existing app and your existing customer experience, and through an API integration to a solution provider, you can have access and you can have the benefits of an improved service or an additional service to your customer base. The other thing is a white label. There are through a white label, you can get a very efficient, full turnkey solution that allow your company to offer remittances. So APIs, it's a huge component. It's companies that already have an app, that already have an ecosystem that want to offer remittances without the need of building a distribution network, of building settlement capabilities, or buying or investing in a whole infrastructure regarding compliance and regulatory needs, and by keeping your same front end and adding a cross-border remittance service through APIs, make the time to market of adding the service very efficient. In our company, we have very successful use cases of companies and financial institutions that are using our APIs to offer remittances to their customer base. Electra, which if you know, Electra is the largest payer of remittances in Mexico, paying almost 0.5% of all remittances that are paid in the country. They are building a customer experience and a banking product in the US that is powered through our APIs to offer remittances to their customers. Other neobanks, other fintechs that are building and acquiring a customer base can have access to our network, to our compliance and regulatory capabilities in a very efficient way to deliver these payments. White labels, aside from APIs, white labels are full turnkey solutions where basically you empower companies that want to offer remittance services by having a full solution that covers them all the same topics: settlement, fraud and risk control, distribution network, compliance and regulatory capabilities. And we've seen in the past, in the US, it was very common for financial institutions in Latin America, in the Philippines, to have physical locations, brick and mortar locations in the US, providing cash remittance services. But the efficiency of those locations became unviable, and the only way for them to continue serving their customer base in the US was through digital apps. So we have multiple financial institutions that are now using our white label applications and getting the benefit of an already proved front end directed for the consumer, using the look and feel, their brand, and being capable of offering remittances at a very, very efficient time to market and investment needs. So remittance as a service, either API, either full turnkey white label solutions, require the following attributes. I think having an app that offers remittances, so just the fact that you say my app or my digital service offer remittances is not enough. You need to have a management and a leadership committed on acquiring or on making the remittance transactions part of your ecosystem at a very efficient rate or very efficient fees, because you are going to be out there competing with so many names and so many applications already in the market. So we always talk to our business partners about, if you're going to allocate a budget on customer acquisition, let's say $100,000, don't go crazy on the first month and spend all of it, because you're not going to see the benefit of that. You need to be persistent. You need to be consistent. And if you're allocating, let's say, $100,000, it is better that you make sure that you plan how to make sure that budget is allocated through a decent period of time, so that you can start creating the business case of understanding what customer acquisition costs and how the customer reacts using your app, and the loyalty of that customer using your app, so that you can calculate your long-term value of that customer. So obviously, companies that already have a customer base, or companies that are already in the space, can significantly reduce their cost of acquisition, because for them it's easier to push an additional service than fully acquiring a customer. But at the end of the day, you have to be committed with a long-term plan on pushing the service. And then the last topic is the rise of super apps. Here we see remittances in the future, and we believe it's going to be part of our ecosystem. It is very hard to see that in the long term, in our opinions, single product apps for remittances will have a long-term sustainable model, because again, you are facing a high cost of acquisition, and you have to build your customer value. And if customers sending money are only expecting remittance fees to go down, the equation doesn't match. So the only way for you to have a sustained model, a long-term sustainable model, is for you to find how remittances can be part of an ecosystem where customers can leverage and they can use and see remittances as part of a bigger offering. So data-driven and personalization of the experience, and how you can monetize the customer that are using your app, that are using remittances as part of this equation. At UniTeller, we're also expanding our white label and API solutions into a super app experience, where we can offer not just the digital as a service capabilities for remittance, but also a broader experience that will includes a mobile wallet, a debit card, bill payments, domestic, internationally, and eventually other type of financial products and services through the same app, that again could be also outsourced as a service for companies that are interested not just on having a remittance app, because again, we believe that remittance as part of a more complex ecosystem will be part of the future. So we see what lies in the future: apps with global reach. The more your app has access to multiple countries, will be better than just being a single country, single corridor. We talk about single product versus multi-product apps, the importance of AI, not only for security purposes, but also from a customer experience and a long-term value of that customer. Global partnerships in order to make sure that your service has the adequate paying partners, the adequate pricing for you to deliver the service adequately. And the app has to be customer-centric. You have to focus on the priorities of your customer and have a sustainable growth model in order to make the product sustainable. So I hope you like the conversation. We'd love to have you at our booth of UniTeller and continue the discussion. And please feel free to reach out. A pleasure being here with you. Thank you.